Welcome back, everyone. Next, we have Uranium American Resources Inc. It trades on the OTCID under the symbol UARI and has entered into an agreement to become a leading uranium and vanadium space. Please welcome CEO Bill Hunger. Welcome to the conference today, Bill.
Hey, thank you very much.
All right.
So, really appreciate the opportunity. Let's jump right into the presentation. As I said, I'm Bill Hunter. I'm the CEO of Uranium American Resources. Happy to be with you today. We'll go through the disclaimers. Obviously, it could be some forward-looking statements here, but we're gonna talk about what our plans are for the future. So, as was said, we've entered into an agreement to become a leading producer of uranium and vanadium in the Western United States. We've got an acquisition agreement to purchase 100% of the issued shares of JAG Minerals, which holds holds 3 projects in central Utah, Wyoming, and what we call our Stateline project, which is on the border of Utah and Colorado. We believe we can accelerate the development of these projects very quickly, especially both Stateline and Sky, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Overview of the transaction: we agreed to purchase the assets for $8.5 million. That's made up of $6.5 million of the company's shares at an issue price of 4 cents a share, and $2 million of cash going to the JAG shareholders. Uranium overview. I don't think I probably need to tell a lot of you about uranium, but it is one of the leading materials used in baseline electricity production. And I use the phrase baseline because it's terribly important in the current environment. The US in particular and the most of the Western world has gotten away from uranium over the last couple of decades, and they need to get back into it because we need good baseload power. Our electricity grid is really focused on having good, solid baseload power. We've reduced our reliance on coal, which I think from a carbon perspective, a CO2 perspective, is good. But we need to replace that with something other than intermittent sources, and uranium is that fuel. It is really the only zero-emission fuel. It has a good global supply-demand outlook. We've seen the U.S. under this administration and in the last administration really focus on having a good source of U.S.-sourced uranium. And there's a number of reactors that are under construction. We think that's going to accelerate over the next few years with the advent of SMRs, and we'll talk about that in a second. Many of you probably know the uranium prices have been on the uptick. Spot prices are in the $80 pound range, but the interesting piece about the uranium and vanadium, or uranium market in particular, is that most of these are done on term contracts, which are typically above the spot price of uranium. Uranium miners have been up because of all this. You've seen a number of AI data centers, which is really kind of the sizzle in the market, enter into agreements to bring back nuclear reactors really increase power demand. So we think the environment is incredibly fertile for a new uranium producer. As I said, there are AI and associated data centers. They've added 28 gigawatts of announced nuclear capacity, and I think it's probably even bigger going forward. Small modular reactors. This is really kind of the way of the future. I mean, the historic reactors, the large water reactors, are difficult and expensive to build. So there's a number of companies out there which are really focused on lower capital expenditures and scalability. And that's important, especially if you think about the AI and data center trade. These can be put up, close to those developments and provide their power without disrupting baseload power for the surrounding communities. So we think SMRs really have tremendous potential to integrate with renewables, provide that baseload power that the intermittents can't, but really complement it. And it has a great potential for remote applications. Some of these, if you've been around that market, some of these are the size of shipping containers, providing up to a gigawatt of power. So they're really scalable, they're really mobile, and we think they present a tremendous opportunity for the future. Vanadium, high strength steel for aerospace and grid scale batteries. I mean, it's a critical mineral. It has had a tremendous surge in pricing. And what I would say for our vanadium markets, our Stateline project is probably almost equal vanadium and uranium in terms of the grade of material. So that's going to be a huge plus for us. Management profile: I'm the CEO. I spent about 30 years on Wall Street covering the metals and mining industry. I've led transactions for just about everything. I became a uranium bull back in the early 2010s and even through the Fukushima disaster, because again, I saw the spiking need for electricity and the need for baseload power. Coming on board from JAG is going to be Cassie Cordoso, who's a tremendous finance executive. And then we've got a complete technical team with Randy Hinkle, Stephen McKay, and Andrew Hawker, who, all of them have frankly been around these projects for the better part of 10 years. On our board, we've got a very seasoned board of mining related folks. Joe Phillips is coming on from JAG. He's been a long time mining, exploration and development producer in Australia. Ryan Welker, who has had experience in both the US and Australia, and as the founder of Vitrinite, which is a coal producer in Australia. Cody Whipperman, a very seasoned corporate development executive from Barrick Gold and Rio Tinto, currently running a small exploration and development focused copper company, and Bob Koppel, who's been a longtime board member and provides us with a excellent legal mind. So to the portfolio that we're acquiring, these are three, I'd say, very unique low risk projects. And what attracted us to them was Marysvale, which is the third line there, really because it was a scalable open pit project. But once we got into the diligence on the project, the Sky and Stateline assets really became even more attractive. And we'll talk about those in a second, but all of these have had numbers of drill holes. You can see Sky's had over 150 drill holes. Stateline's got 30 drill holes. Marysvale's got over 120 drill holes. Marysvale and Stateline have both been in production before, and Sky and Marysvale both had historical estimates. So we think if you look at the surrounding communities and the surrounding players, where all of our assets are right in the districts where other leading uranium companies play, such as Energy Fuels, UEC, and Ur-Energy, and I'd also include Western Uranium in that. So let's dig into the projects, because Stateline's our first project that we're going to be focusing on. It's about 3 square kilometers of strategic area in the LaSalle Creek district. It has 19 historic uranium and vanadium mines with a very high vanadium content. Historically, as you'll see in a second, the uranium's been a little bit less, but we've done recent mapping and sampling, and our scintillometer readings are up to 45,200 CPS, which indicates to us that we could be looking at greater than 1% uranium along with the 1% vanadium. It's a very favorable geology. Again, we've got easy access not only through the highways but through existing portals into a number of our assets. As I said, it's 19 historic uranium mines. You can see that a number of these produced, some tons over in the period of the 50s and 60s. You can see the grades there. We think the grade of uranium is going to be markedly higher than what they saw in the past. And the local geology is the East Central Colorado Plateau. It's in the LaSalle Trend. You can see there's a number of other players around us, including Western, which is over the top of us in one of our mines. Sky project. This one's super exciting as well. It is in the Gas Hills district of Wyoming, and it's 30. It's just a fantastic roll front property. Roll front meaning there's access to what's known as in-situ leaching. That makes the mining cost a lot cheaper. It is, if you want to think about it, I like to think about it as fracking for uranium mining. So what you do is you sink a drill hole, you pump a heated leach solution into the hole, bring it back up, and you've got a pregnant leach solution which has uranium. This property is highlighted by 161 RC holes, reverse circulation holes, which define the exploration trend. In 2007, Strathmore had a 43101 compliant mineral resource estimate of about 1 million pounds. We believe the mineralization is open to the north and the south, which means we think we can take that 1 million pounds, to multiples of that. The historic, you can see the historic geology on this slide. You can see that resource estimate. You had roughly 1 million pounds of inferred and indicated. Again, we think we can take that to multiples as the mineralization is open to both the north and the south. What we're going to do is on both Stateline and Sky, right after acquisition, we're going to get working on some geophysical mapping and use some AI to really kind of focus on where we want to punch these additional drill holes to define this resource as well as Stateline. I think that's going to reduce our cost pretty significantly. Again, Pathfinder did the studies, and it's conducted to what's known as in situ leaching, which again makes it a lot more economic. Marysvale. Again, this was the first project that really attracted me to this as we were thinking about what to purchase within UARI, and this is right adjacent to the central mining area where 1.5 million pounds of U3O8 has been produced between 49 and 66. There's 20 unpatented mining claims and a state lease. Historic estimate on this property has been almost 3 million pounds, and we think that can go significantly higher as well. There's been 127 historic drill holes. It was completed by Minix Phillips and Trigon Exploration. There's very favorable geology and mineralization. It's occurring from the surface to a depth of about 500 feet, so this makes this a very pittable asset. With that pittable asset, obviously is a greater cost than the underground mines at Stateline or the in situ mines at Sky, but we believe we can get this drilled out, and then we will probably look to partner, or we'll look to use our cash flow from the other two projects to really advance Marysvale. From a geological perspective, again, 2.9 million pounds with 300 to 500 feet of surface of resource historically. We think there's potential not only to add both to the east and west with respect to mineralization, but another thing that caught us while we were out there was that there's a significant amount of tailings piles that may have the ability to be repurposed and bring out some very good U3O8 as well. So we think this is a very open book. We're excited to get into the planning process around Marysvale. Our jurisdiction. This is one of the key things. I mean, jurisdiction in uranium is critical. As everyone knows, the Russian and Baltic states have a tremendous amount of uranium and difficult to deal with given the geopolitical focus on Russia. Niger has canceled their the mining license of France's Orano. So what we really wanted was to see a domestic source of uranium. We think our domestic source can be producing upwards of 1 million pounds of uranium over the next 3 to 5 years. So that's going to be of critical importance as you see some of these SMRs coming online and needing uranium that may not be available from the global market. Our next steps, I think we talked about it a little bit. We're going to be very strategic. One of the things that as a banker I hated was CEOs coming on and talking about how they're going to continue to drill and create resource. Well, that's not what we want to do, and that's why we're focused on Stateline and Sky. We want to get both Stateline and Sky into production over the next 3 years, so that we can be producing cash flow for investors. I think cash flow is of utmost importance to the investor community. I'd love to see a very large asset at Marysvale, but we're going to focus on cash flow to get to that very large asset. From a timeline, Stateline again is our first target. We're going to be working on the technology agreements, environmental studies, and the mining lease application over the next 3 to 9 months. This timeline might move out to the right just a little bit, and then we're going to be thinking about and we're going to be doing drilling and resource reports and getting a pre-feas. On Sky, we're going to probably start drilling sometime in the early to mid next year, and advancing that project probably in almost a parallel basis. So you'll see, I think you'll see some pretty exciting news flow from us over the next 3 to 6 months with respect to developments at both of these assets. Again, we walked through a little bit of it. We walked through the purchase price. We have an agreement with a strategic hedge fund to issue $3.5 to $4 million of equity at 6 cents a share, with a corresponding warrant at 10 cents a share. That will allow us to exercise the cash purchase price as well as the equity to the JAG shareholders, and allow us to get into both drilling at Stateline and Sky and getting these projects moving. I'd like to say, obviously we'll need to raise more cash to bring both of those into production, but we are having some pretty strategic discussions with various government agencies, including the DOW, the DOE, Exim Bank, to make sure that we have the funding to move this project forward. From a capital structure perspective, as you kind of work through all of the numbers, we will likely have around 900 million shares outstanding when the transaction closes. We are quickly going to do a 1-for-15 reverse share split to bring down that number of shares and really bring up the share price. I guess we've hit on that. Next path forward on post-acquisition strategic milestones. Get that 1-for-15 reverse split done. We're going to engage. We are a non-reporting firm on OTC. We're going to engage all of our accounting experts, get our audits done, and our goal is to uplist to the OTCQB and then ultimately the NASDAQ. So in conclusion, we think this JAG acquisition really presents us with an excellent opportunity in the uranium and vanadium space. Again, I'm an energy bull. I think we're going to see, maybe not a logarithmic, but we're going to see a tremendous explosion in the need for baseload electric power, and we believe that uranium is going to be that fuel that's going to be able to provide a good chunk of that in the mix, and we want to be the next producer of it. So I'm gonna end it there and thank everybody for their time, and happy to open it up to questions.
Awesome, Bill. Thank you so much. Yeah. So Vince wants to know, do you still maintain an interest in the Comstock?
We do not. No.
Okay. And Justin asks, was this a reverse merger? And if so, is there any restructuring still to do?
It is not a reverse merger. It's just a straight share purchase. There's a little bit of restructuring still to do. We had a number of convertible loan notes outstanding, and we've taken care of about 90% of those. The other 10% we're still working on. but for the most part, we've gotten this the structure of what was known as the old tonal gold. If people are familiar, we've gotten that pretty well cleaned up.
Great. And Quid asks, has the acquisition, including the 2 million in cash, been completely fulfilled?
It has not yet. We're, like I said, we're waiting for that strategic investor. We're hopefully to get that closed, shortly, and get the transaction closed.
And Kat wants you to talk about your timeline to production. Is the plan still to partner at some point?
Only on Marysvale. I think we'll probably get, on Stateline and Sky. We believe we can get those into production again over the next, I say 3 to 4 years, but it's probably more like 2 to 3. We really believe Stateline's got a potential to be fast tracked. And again, we've had a number of conversations with various government agencies with respect to fast tracking those assets. So we're optimistic, but I think I want to bring Stateline into production as quickly as possible, and I want to target less than 3 years for sure.
And vanadium, what stage is the company in?
Again, that's Stateline, so it is very similar, right? It's when we are mining at Stateline, our tons will have 1% uranium, 1% vanadium.
Okay.
Coming out.
And sorry if any of these are redundant, just trying to go through them in
No,
order.
not at all.
Regarding Stateline and Marysvale and Sky, do we have the results of any of those drill holes?
So Marysvale and Sky are all historical drill holes. And you can see them. Believe they're posted on our website. If they're not, I'll make sure we have them posted. But those old 43101 reports are available, but no, not through our drilling. We haven't.
And UC wants you to talk about what type of experience in the uranium sector has the company's management team had in the past?
Yeah, again, I spent a lifetime in metals mining. Did a number of uranium transactions. The 3 technical people have been around this project for 10 years. They're very familiar with uranium and vanadium space. But we've also had some conversations with some pretty seasoned uranium executives that once we get this closed, I will bring on board.
Perfect. And the fracking for uranium, what will this do to the production costs versus those using traditional methods?
Yeah, so yeah, it's funny. I use that, and it is like fracking, but that cost is significantly cheaper. I think our estimates are around, both for the underground and for the roll front property. Our estimates are somewhere in the $35 to $40 a pound range. So it leaves us a lot of room for good margins.
Can you talk about what the insider ownership looks like?
Yeah, there's a lot of insiders. So a lot of the historical ownership has been, people who were involved in the company. So, I think I'm going to own roughly 1 or 2% of the company, and our board probably represents another. Well, I think Bob's probably well over a 3 or 4% holder. So, we'll have a pretty significant ownership.
And so when does the company expect first production from your projects? I know I'm asking this, but would that be toll milling agreement, for example, with energy?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. We'll likely do a toll milling agreement with one of the neighboring parties, which will keep our capital costs down. That's one thing we didn't talk about. I mean, we're estimating our capital cost at Stateline to be around $20 million, and Sky probably around double that. So,
Okay.
it's not a tremendous. If we had to build a mill, it would obviously go up. And if it's something we have to do, we will do. But I would prefer to stick with a toll milling agreement out of the box.
All right, Bill, do you have any closing remarks for our viewers?
No, look, I'd like to just thank you guys so much for giving me the opportunity to present here. Contact information is on this presentation. I'd welcome any questions from any of your investors.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And we look forward to hearing from you again in the future with your updates.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, everyone, we'll be right back.